The Beatles' Rubber Soul, the musical shift that would lead to challenging what rock and roll really is and was. More pop-friendly songs like Can't Buy Me Love and She Loves You were great, but the Beatles decided to see what else they could offer. With songs like Norwegian Wood, Michelle, Girl, and In My Life, this album marked the dawn of the new reinvented, ready to experiment even more Beatles. Today, we're going to show you 10 very interesting facts about the Beatles' album, Rubber Soul. Let's begin. They had the music, the fame, the money, for the most part, but the Beatles were anything but complacent and wanted to explore different styles of songwriting. Paul says, "In October 1965, we started to record the album. Things were changing. The direction was moving away from the poppy stuff like Thank You Girl, From Me to You, and She Loves You. The early material was directly relating to our fans, saying, 'Please buy this record.' But now we'd come to a point where we thought, we've done that. Now we can branch out into songs that are more surreal, a little more entertaining, and other people were starting to arrive on the scene who were influential. Dylan was influencing us quite heavily at that point." Photographer Robert Freeman took this photo at John Lennon's home in Weybridge. He said he wanted another angle of the group and a different tonality, greens, browns, and black. When Robert showed the Beatles the slides of their photo shoot, Robert used a piece of cardboard the same size as an album and projected the images onto it. But the cardboard fell backwards just a little, and the result was enchanting. Paul says, "It was stretched and we went, 'That's it, Rubber Soul, oh, hey, can you do it like that?' And he said, 'Well, yeah, I can print it that way.' And that was it." The Beatles and comedy is nothing new. The boys are hilarious, but the banter, probably stoned if we're being honest, during the rehearsal session for Think For Yourself is a little piece of history every music fan should witness.
Pooh, and I stink too. I'm waiting for somebody to say something about it.
It's that anti-odorant you use.
It isn't.
It is.
Cynthia licked it clean before we left.
Let me tell you. It's that BO odorant, that deodorant you're using.
Here's to a prosperous
Deodorant. That great big deodorant. It's great big deodorant.
Even the Beatles had to woo their fair share of girls, but Paul often had a brooding strategy for it that involved a little French number. Paul had been writing songs since the 50s and used to play a primitive version of Michelle at parties. He said that John's art tutor, Austin Mitchell, would throw all-night parties and you could maybe pull girls there. Paul would sit enigmatically in a corner wearing a black turtleneck sweater, playing this French-sounding tune on his guitar, even pretending that he could speak French. After a few years, John asked him, "Do you remember that French thing you used to do at Mitchell's parties?" Paul said yes. John responded, "Well, that's a good tune. You should do something with that." So Paul's French tune at Mitchell's party thus became Michelle. If you love the Beatles, then there's a massive chance you adore the Beach Boys. It makes sense because they were inspired by each other, especially after Rubber Soul's release. Musical genius Brian Wilson recalls that fateful listening session. He said, "Rubber Soul blew my mind. When I heard Rubber Soul, I said, that's it, that's all, folks. I said, I'm going to make an album that's really good. I mean, really challenge me. I mean, I love that fucking album. I cherish that album." So Brian makes Pet Sounds, which is an earth-shatteringly fantastic album, and in the same spirit of competition, Paul was inspired to create Sgt. Pepper's after hearing Pet Sounds. Paul says, "Pet Sounds blew me out of the water. I love the album so much. I figured no one is educated musically till they've heard that album. I've often played Pet Sounds and cried. I played it to John so much that it would be difficult for him to escape the influence." Before All You Need Is Love, Revolution, and other anthemic masterpieces, The Word is often looked over as the Beatles' first anthem for love. John says, "It sort of dawned on me that love was the answer when I was younger." On the Rubber Soul album, my first expression of it was a song called The Word. The word is love. In the good and the bad books that I have read, whatever, wherever, the word is love. It seems like the underlying theme to the universe. Everything that was worthwhile got down to this love, love, love thing. And it's the struggle to love, be loved, and express that. That's fantastic. There are a few theories on where the title Rubber Soul came from, but we're going to give you two sides and let us know in the comments what you think. Mick Jagger was making a name for himself with the Rolling Stones in blues, but it is said some older blues musicians didn't really feel he had the soul. Paul says, I just read about an old bloke in the States who said, Mick Jagger, man, well, you know they're good, but it's plastic soul. So plastic soul was the germ of the rubber soul idea. But John Lennon, as usual, maintained that it wasn't really that thought out by saying that was Paul's title. It was like Your Blues, I suppose meaning English soul. Rubber soul is just a pun. There's no great mysterious meaning behind all of this. It was just four boys working out what to call their new album. John had written What Goes On way back when he was with the Quarrymen. They resurrected it because they were scrambling to get songs onto Rubber Soul, and interestingly enough, it's credited to Lennon, McCartney, and STARR, making it Ringo's first official songwriting credit. Ringo remarks, I used to wish that I could write songs like the others, and I've tried, but I just can't. I can't get the words all right. Neil Aspinall remarked that Paul showed Ringo What Goes On a multi-track tape, and after listening to it, Ringo added his own ideas before the recording session, giving him compositional credit. Great job, Ringo. It was a time for firsts, and not just for Ringo. After recording What Goes On, the Beatles attempted the song 12-bar original. Having a feeling of improvisation, including George Martin playing harmonium, it didn't seem likely it was seriously considered to be released on Rubber Soul. It was rumored that Rubber Soul was originally intended to have an instrumental track, and most likely it was 12-bar original. Also, when asked if there was an unreleased Beatles song after the breakup, John says, some lousy 12-bar. Notice that the album has no The Beatles logo. That's because the boys were so famous their likeness alone was enough to sell albums, making it the first album by the Beatles to do so. After years, as Paul says, of begging people to listen to their records, Rubber Soul marks the Beatles as we know them to be, experimental, often playful, boundary-pushing musicians that would change the world of music forever. That's all for today. Man, I love this album and Revolver so much. They are like siblings in my eyes. Or ears. If you had to choose just one, which would it be? Hard question, right? Let me know in the comments. Thanks so much for watching, and special thanks to contributing author Leah Robbins. Be sure to check out some of our other videos on music, such as Why Did Freddie Mercury Write Bohemian Rhapsody?, the story behind Toto's Africa, and if you're a Beatles fan, well, let's just say this is your channel. Thanks to the amazing patrons who keep this channel alive, and if you're into super underground music, then definitely check out the HollyHobs on Spotify, Apple Music, and everywhere music is streamed. If you want to be notified when new videos are out, at this point you'll have to hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and pray that YouTube will recommend anything you actually might want to see. If you have an idea for a video, please be sure to leave a comment. See you next time.